Members, we do have a number of individuals that wish to speak to this bill. We'll now turn our attention to Representative Irwin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to speak on the omnibus budget, House Bill 4328. First, I just want to comment on the practice here in the House. This has been the third year I've been here for the budget process, and for the third year in a row, the budget is being rolled up into these large single budget bills. I just want to take my members and fellow colleagues back a little bit to a time when these budgets weren't rolled up. When the budgets weren't rolled up, we had an opportunity to debate and talk about issues incumbent to each of these departments. The legislature had an opportunity to spend more time, more effort, and do more work on behalf of the public to get these budgets right. But unfortunately, this legislature has seen it fit to once again roll these budgets up. And as a result, we reduce the transparency that this body has vis-a-vis our employers, the citizens of the state of Michigan. And as a result of that, we reduce the accountability that we bring to the table here. I think that's a big mistake. Maybe even more important to all my colleagues, particularly on the other side of the aisle, is we also reduce the power of the legislature. In our Constitution, the legislature is granted the power of the budget, and the executive is supposed to work with that budget. By rolling up these bills into one giant budget document, we reduce the influence that the legislature has in the process. We reduce the opportunity for the legislature to send certain messages and direct certain behavior in the way that the executive spends the taxpayers' money. So I think it's important that we consider this, and I would certainly urge and hope that my colleagues in leadership consider the idea that what we're doing here may be convenient in the short run. It may allow certain representatives to escape difficult or uncomfortable votes because of political reasons. But what it does fundamentally is it reduces transparency and accountability in this chamber, and it reduces the power of the legislative branch vis-a-vis the executive. I think that's a huge mistake. Now, the other thing that this does, of course, we roll up all the budgets. It means that someone like me who's standing up to oppose this budget has a target-rich environment. There are so many things about this budget bill that I'd like to talk about, but I'm going to spare my colleagues all those items. I'm just going to talk about one. I want to talk about Medicaid expansion just a little bit. I am so disappointed that Medicaid expansion is not in this budget. And I want to say that I fear that the reason that Medicaid expansion is not in this budget is because some representatives have miscast this question as a political question rather than a math question. And of course, as we all know, political questions have infinite answers, but math questions only have one answer. If we accept Medicaid expansion in Michigan, that's going to mean an additional $200 million in our budget this year. And it may be strange to consider that accepting this federal money that contains a match requirement is actually going to bring more money into the state than it costs us. But because there are so many Medicaid programs that we're deploying here in Michigan to help struggling families that would be covered by Medicaid expansion, we actually save money in Michigan every year by expanding Medicaid. $200 million we're leaving on the table because we've miscast this as a political question rather than as a math question. I've got one more number for you. That's the number of people in my county who are going to be served by Medicaid expansion. 14,000 people just in Washtenaw County, hundreds of thousands of people across the state of Michigan, people who are working for a living, people who are struggling to feed their families and afford health insurance on meager incomes. And we're not willing to extend them the help that the Federal Affordable Care Act has offered them. And why are we doing that? We're doing it because we've forgotten our jobs. We've miscast this question as a political question rather than as a math question. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Irwin.